Hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. Today's video is a review of Devil's Reign #1. This is a new comic from Marvel Comics. This is going to be the culmination of Chip Zdarsky's run on Daredevil. So if you haven't been reading that, you don't need to specifically be caught up. I think you can jump into the event without that. But let's go take a look at the creative team and then we'll talk a little bit more about that. So this is written by Chip Siddarski with art by Marco Checcetto, who's been the artist on most of the Daredevil run, with colors by Marcio Menes and letters by Clayton Cowles. Um, so yeah, like I mentioned, Chip Zdarsky's been on Daredevil for a couple of years now, and he's had a great run. I think he's been doing some really interesting stuff, which I also really enjoyed Charles Soule run before that. So Daredevil's been in good hands for quite a long time now, I think, in my opinion. Um, Specifically with this team of Siddarski and Checcetto, I think Checcetto has a really cool. It's a house style, but it's like a contemporary house style. It really fits, at least with the aesthetic that I look for in a Daredevil comic. And then I think Siddarski is just really good at writing the character from really all angles. You know, when it comes to being Mad Murdock and Daredevil. So let's get a little summary of the story and then we'll dive into some panels and stuff like that. So this story has been building up for years. Wilson Fisk went from being Kingpin to mayor of the biggest city in America and is going to bring his full criminal and political power to bear on the superheroes who call New York City home. The man who once destroyed Daredevil has set his sights on the Fantastic Four, Iron Man, Captain America, Spider-Man, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and more. So here we will have Fisk and his army of supervillains, including Crossbone, Taskmaster, Typhoid Mary, Shocker, Whiplash, Rhino, and Craven, hunt these heroes down. But you really won't believe what the teams have up their sleeves. So yeah, if you haven't been reading Daredevil, the main thing you need to know is that Wilson Fisk has been the mayor of New York for quite a while now, pretty much throughout the length of the Daredevil run for Zdarsky. So it's really been leading all up to this. Uh, he signs a law in New York City where superheroes are not welcome anymore. They will be arrested on sight. And that's something that he had been working back and forth. He had met a little bit of resistance and stuff, but for the most part, he'd been like that's been happening in the comic. So this finally comes to a critical boiling point here. Um, and the big reason behind that, we have this small conversation at the beginning of the book. Wilson Fisk knows he has a lot of files on his enemies, including Daredevil. But on the Daredevil file, he says he knew his identity, but the file doesn't make sense. So he knows that Daredevil or someone has tampered with his mind, and he's really pissed about that. I love Checcetto's art here, and this sequence of events when Fisk is confronting Daredevil. So if you're not familiar with the story, a few years ago, and the comic's very good at catching you up on all this stuff. A few years ago, Daredevil's identity was known publicly, but then with the help of Kilgrave's kids, the Purple Kids, Kilgrave's the Purple Man who has the power to like make people do whatever he wants to do with his words. Well, his kids have a similar power, and they pretty much made everyone forget who Daredevil was with their power. Uh, so that's kind of what happened, and that's why Fisk doesn't know this. So it's very intriguing that now they're really like it's a callback from way back. So that's kind of what's driving Fisk. Plus, you know, his ambition because he is Wilson Fisk. He's a bad guy. Um, I really like that. It really feels like it's really a big event. I didn't realize the scope of this event until I actually read the book. We see Tony Stark. We see them form a new Thunderbolts with the villains that I mentioned before. We see here the X-Men's opinion on this, that they really, because the X-Men are operating out of New York as well now. And then we see that Moon Knight is the first one targeted to be arrested. And like I mentioned, this affects pretty much everyone. Once you get the Fantastic Four involved, you know that it's a big event. And I really like Checcetto's portrayal of this, especially this close up at the end, of the Thing. And then, one last thing we see here, that some heroes that are more of the street level, like Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, who are just trying to raise their kid Danny, also must flee. So if you've been reading comics for a long time, this sounds a lot like Civil War type of stuff. I think the big difference here is that this is all being driven by the Kingpin, and it's actually been setting up for quite a while. We've had the outlaw, the Kamala's law, that outlaws kids under 21 from being superheroes anywhere in the U.S. That's a federal law, but now this is more on the city level, and these heroes are being targeted specifically because they live in New York City. So it makes it really interesting. As you saw on the cover, we'll have more. Like we have both Spider-Man, um, who I didn't recognize Miles Morales with his new outfit immediately. So that was pretty interesting. Yeah, so I don't know. I really like I like this book. It was a surprise how big of an event it was going to be. Really, that's the main thing. So if you like big moral events, this is the book for you. Chip Zdarsky and Michael Checcetto and the whole team, they really put together a beautiful book to start this off with. And I think even if you haven't been reading his Daredevil run, you get enough information here, a backstory and a little summary at the beginning, that you won't be lost. So yeah, if you want to stay up to date on the current event, I recommend this. I also understand anybody that would want to wait till the end of this and just read it as a collection. That's pretty fair. Uh, we will have some tie-ins to this, so in the future, once the event's done, I'll do a video follow up on, like, what events are kind of not worth it, but like which events are really tied into the story, which events are just kind of like for fun. The little, not all the tie-ins are always like critical to the story, but there's some that really add depth to the story. So I like doing a retrospective look at a full event to see how far you need to dive into the times. So, but yeah, let me know what you thought of this book if you read it. We will be covering more Marvel stuff. We have more DC reviews and all that good stuff. TV show recaps. So yeah, let us know what you're reading. Let us know what you're watching. Share, like, subscribe, leave us a comment, and thanks for watching, everyone. Bye bye.